Hi, this is Doug Jefferson, and we're starting with Module 12, Tort Liability. First off, tort is an actionable or civil wrong committed against one person by another that is independent by contract. There are two types of tort liability. The first one's intentional, the second's unintentional. Intentional tort is assault, battery, libel, slander, defamation, false arrest, malicious prosecution, and invasion of privacy. And it requires proof of intent or willfulness, and unintentional tort is simple negligence and does not require such proof of intent or willfulness. So my first court case is Johnson Johnson versus School District of Millard. Nancy Patton was a music teacher for first graders. She taught her class the song and game London Bridge, where you have two students on either side of a student. They're in the middle, and they rock them back and forth. When she turned her back, two boys had flung another boy, and he ended up going into a bookcase. He required 50 stitches. The cut was to the bone, and it actually severed some muscle tissue. He also suffered blurred vision and headaches because of the injury. And the court ruled negligent supervision. So the school district had to pay over $20,000 for medical costs, disfigurement, and pain and suffering. So reactive measures, I would say put on probation, but allowed to continue teaching, maybe a 30-day without pay probation or something like that. She only turned her back for anywhere from 7 to 12 seconds is what the song lasts. And anytime you have first graders, depending on the day, things can get a little hectic pretty quick. So proactive measures, Mrs. Patton could have asked for more supervision. Depending on the class that you have, some boys are going to be a little more wound than others. So if this was one of those classes, possibly she could have got a parent to come in or another teacher that was on a planning period, or maybe even possibly a parent that helps out in the school every now and then. Professional ethics. One thing after this happens, or before this happens, you should have a syllabus outlining when a song and dance or any type of game will be occurring. One person in charge of anywhere from 15 or more first graders is hard to control, especially when you have to turn your back and put something on the board for them to do. So it's always a good idea to have an extra adult lined up to help out with extra set of eyes. My second court case is Mosley versus Portland Public School District number 1J. 15-year-old Chrisetta Mosley was attending class at Jefferson High School. During her lunch period, she got involved in a fight with Wanda Griffin. Griffin produced a box-cutting knife and stabbed Mosley several times in the head and chest. Because of this, there was permanent scarring, and the Portland School District prevailed on the issue of discretionary immunity, and secondly, that there was no negligence on behalf of the security personnel. This is one of those cases where, I guess me being from the Midwest in Kansas and smaller rural communities, I can't even imagine this happening in school. But it does in other places, and we hope it's one of those things that never happens. So reactive measures, you could either have metal detectors at the front door for everyone to walk through, or at least have your SROs at the front door, and they have handheld metal detectors, so checking everyone once they come in. Proactive measures, again, same thing with the metal detectors, having those on hand. I know the Wichita USD 259 high schools, they all have metal detectors when you come in the front doors. I'm not sure about the middle schools, but just to make sure things like that don't happen. And professional ethics, make sure you have enough security for your school that you're at. Every school district's different. Some are rural, some are metropolitan, and depending on the number of students, you should probably have a certain ratio of SROs or police officers to students. My third case is Brahacek versus Millard School District. 14-year-old David Brodchek was struck by a golf club in gym class, knocked unconscious, never regained consciousness, and died 2 days later. The lesson was moved inside to the gym because of inclement weather. There were 58 students in the class. David missed the first day of instruction where they went over the grip and how to swing a golf club. So on the day when David was there, another student in his group was helping David learn how to swing. He took 2 practice swings, and then Mark took a third swing, and this time he didn't check over his shoulder. And David kind of crept up on him, got a little closer, and on Mark's follow-through, he actually hit David. And this is where the incident occurred. The PE teacher did not know or follow the inside instructions that were written out because the school actually did have a policy that if need be, if this golf curriculum was moved indoors, there was a specific set of rules about how you would go about it and how the students needed to be structured and where all the golf mats need to be so that no one would get hit like this. And the PE teacher did not know about it. And the school district was found negligent for its lack of supervision. This fell back on the teacher because the school district did have in place specific rules guiding this specific instruction, and they were not followed, so it all came back on the teacher. Reactive measures. I believe that if this happened at our school, that the teacher's contract would be terminated. Again, the policy was written out, it was not followed, so it's kind of out of the school district's hands when something like that happens. Proactive measures. One thing that could have happened was, is one of those days it's raining outside or a thunderstorm, whatever it might be. The principal maybe, prints off the policies and hands them to the PE teacher and reminds him, hey, we do have certain set policies for this kind of curriculum for this specific module. And professional ethics, you see a thunderstorm coming or something, or it's raining outside or it's muddy or whatever, maybe the principal just kind of pops in class and says, hey, here's these written policies, this is what it needs to be done, or hey, remember that we have this policy on file and this is what needs to be done since you have so many kids in your class and this is how it has to happen. The next court case is Hoyam versus Manhattan Beach City School District. Michael Hoyam, who was a 10-year-old, was attending summer school, and on July 16th, Michael arrived at school but skipped or left school early before the end of his classes. While he was going home, he was at a public intersection and a motorcycle struck Michael and he was seriously injured. The original decision on this case was reversed in appeals court, and the district was liable because of lax supervision, which allowed Michael to leave the school grounds. So basically what it comes down to was because no one followed up on where Michael was or why he was gone, no one other than the teacher knew he was gone, and when he was struck at the intersection, it kind of came back on the school, even though it had never been ruled that way in California before. Basically, once the child was off school grounds, then what they did on their own was their own result. So, reactive measures. I believe the teacher who had Michael in class would be let go because it did not report that he was missing. It doesn't matter, summer school or regular school sessions, if a student's missing, you need to at least notify somebody at the school that they're gone. Proactive measures. Even in summer school, attendance must be mandatory. If a student is missing, teacher must contact someone in the school and let them know that the student's not in class or is missing from class. And professional ethics, again, it must be mandatory that teachers take attendance in a school setting. If the student is not in class, someone in the school must be notified. So my final court case is Hall versus Jones, and this takes place in Alabama. Jones was a PE teacher. Two boys got in a fight over basketball. One fellow, he was being guarded too closely. A ball was thrown, then the other boy tried striking the other boy, and turned into a frenzy, basically. Because of this frenzy, one boy was actually pushed down and hit his head on metal stairs, and that boy suffered serious head injuries as a result. While this was going on, Jones was either at the other end of the gym or at the entrance of the gym leaving to go deliver a message to the girls' PE instructor. And because of this, Jones was found guilty of negligence. His scope of state of agent immunity was denied because he was not where he was supposed to be with those students. He was either at the other end of the gym or just outside the gym doors. There were two different scenarios there, and neither one of them was very clear specifically of where he was at. So based on two different ports, he was in two different places, but either time he was not where he needed to be. So the reactive measures, the employee would be let go since they were not performing their job when the accident happened. They weren't watching over their students, which this could have easily been preventable if he had been on that end of the court or where he needed to be. Proactive measures, Jones could have waited to deliver the message or send a student who was not involved in the game, especially if the message was not of a personal nature. If it was of personal nature, it could have just waited. And professional ethics, teachers should not leave their classrooms assuming everything will be all right. You need to have guidelines in place to deliver messages. So a teacher does not need to leave the students. Teachers should never leave their classroom, especially with students in there. It only takes a fraction of a second for something to take place. So this was my Module 12. I really learned a lot from this, and it really opened your eyes as an educator of how quickly things can happen or change in the classroom, and really enjoyed this assignment. Thank you.